Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live call-in show. This is only the second time that we have had the live call-in show where it is open to all callers. I have the call-in overlay that I throw in. I just throw this bad boy up here. Watch this. Ooh. Wrong way. Look at that. I'm out of practice. I am out of practice. There's my overlay, and I can throw new callers in there so that you guys can pop on. It is video only. You don't have to worry about, getting yourself pretty for the show. It is just going to be an audio version. We have some familiar faces backstage right now, but again, anyone who sees this is welcome to call in. The link for Streamyard is in the comments right now. I just posted it there at 4:59. If there are folks waiting in the waiting room as I'm talking with a caller, I will attempt to truncate those conversations to be respectful to those people working. I will always try to get back around to people and want to make sure if there is a lot of people waiting that we get to those individuals. So again, the link is already in the chat. You can get back there into the waiting room. We have folks back there, so that's where we want to go. This is the show where you get to dictate what the topic is. Whatever 49ers topic you want to bring to the table, that's what we are going to talk about. I see folks are here and engaged in the chat as well. We got sneakerheads galore. We got Sean 951 Niners sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Ellis 10 sneakerhead here on the channel. Bang, bang, indeed. Charles Thurman at Rob, if we could get Trey a good right side to the offensive line, he would rock with playing time. The right side of that offensive line seems very much in flux at this point in time. That may be a topic that we get to in just a moment. All right. We will get back into the comments. Please keep them coming if you are here live. I love the interaction with the comment section. But as of right now, we are bringing into the show. You know him. You love him. We are bringing in Korean 49er. What's going on? How you doing today?
Not too bad, Rob. I don't know if I'm that low, but I'll
well,
take
when you have controversial takes, people are going to come at you a little sideways for the occasional one. So I'm sure that you have those that agree with you wholeheartedly and those that are passionately opposed to some of those takes.
My dad had quite a few sayings. He said, they don't boo anybody that's not, if you're nobody, they don't boo you.
That's right. That's right. Hey, as much as Roger Goodell gets booed, the man is a powerful player, right? There's a reason he gets those resounding boos. I think your dad is onto something with that saying.
And my dad also said, I can defend winning all day long. I can't defend losing. I can run up the score and I can still say, hey, we played great. I can defend that all day long.
Right.
So I want to talk to you about the draft.
Okay. Bring the draft content.
The first player, the edge from USC, I think he's going to be a good player, but I didn't see him as a big need. I assume they had him as the best player available, and that I can't really argue with. But
yeah,
my only thing is you still have holes on the offensive line.
Okay, so you wanted to go O-line with that first pick?
Yes. I would have tried, and that's because I always go by when Bill Belichick had Tom Brady for all those years in New England, what was his first priority? To compete, I have to protect my quarterback.
Yes, you do.
I mean, if any team wants to at least try and compete, I assume that's the first priority. And then the second one is go after the quarterback on defense.
Right, which is apparently what the 49ers' preference is, to get after the quarterback, spend their assets on players that can get after the quarterback. I understand why you would go into that round, looking at the second round, looking at the 61st overall pick, and say to yourself, edge rusher isn't that big of a need. The 49ers did a pretty good job of putting in those complementary players on the opposite side of Bosa. I mean, when you look at the number of starting caliber NFL players along the defensive line, not just at the edges, but certainly at the edges as well, it is a deep group, and that was the case before taking Drake Jackson. Now it's even deeper. Now it almost makes you wonder if they will move on from Samson Ebukam or trade one of those other players that becomes a pretty significant depth piece.
Yeah, that's the thing I was wondering if they're going to make another move in the future to free up more cap room or whatever. But the other thing I was thinking about is the running back selection in the third round.
What were your thoughts on that?
To me, we've already seen how the 49ers normally do when they draft high running backs. They haven't.
It hasn't been great lately.
I mean, Jalen Hurd, they wanted to make into a running back, and I feel bad that his body broke down, and in college he never got a chance to play. I feel very bad for him. You don't get very many chances to even make the NFL, let alone get drafted. And then you're telling me that Trey Sermon is not as serviceable. You have no use for Trey Sermon, and you drafted him just last year and moved up to draft him.
Yeah, gave up an additional pick to move up and take Trey Sermon.
And now I have nothing against Davis Price. If he gets a lot of yards and a lot of carries, that's great. Hopefully that's the case. But they could have found another running back in maybe the 5th round or the 6th round when they had extra picks where they could say, hey, let's take a flyer on this player and see what we can get.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's not the idea that they took a running back that you have any objection to. It's the value. It's where you took the running back when you could have waited, and you've shown us you've been able to hit on some of those later finds, those later gems.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was thinking, do we really need a running back in the 3rd round? As I said before, within reason, I kind of wanted a fat man draft, more offensive linemen.
What do you think of? So Tom Bragg comes in. He's taking us back to that 2nd round pick, but very similar way of describing where they were. Tom Bragg comes in to say we could have easily traded up a few picks in the 2nd round and gotten either Jaquan Brisker or Cam Jurgens. Would that have been your preference, right? The 49ers saw the way the board was unfolding. Would you have had them stay put at 61 and go big man? Or did you see a couple of players that they could have stretched for and either gotten that safety or, to your preference, taken one of the 300-pounders?
If there was a 300-pounder that was a few picks ahead, maybe let's just say 55 or, maybe less than 10 picks ahead.
Right.
I would have just moved up and, got what I need or the player I wanted.
I was shocked that there were no trades by the San Francisco 49ers, that they actually selected 9 players and then signed 14 undrafted players. So 23 rookies are headed into the 49ers camp. I cannot imagine, even half of them making the team. This is a deep team. And that's why I thought the 49ers would give up some of those later draft picks to move up in the draft, get the players that they covet, and come away with fewer bodies. I honestly thought that the 49ers would draft roughly 7 players. I did not think there would be 9 drafted bodies headed to the Niners.
My only reason for thinking they drafted this many players is when they were coming into this offseason, they only had 30-something players signed to guarantee, for the upcoming year. So they need to at least have some kind of depth when training camp starts. Understanding that we're not going to keep all these players on the roster when we head into the first game.
That makes sense. And the 49ers do need to get some cheaper bodies for next year. I mean, when you look forward at the San Francisco 49ers, the percentage of cap that's eaten up and the number of players signed are both fairly shocking, right? They have a lot of big contracts. And so you can look at next year's roster and see that the 49ers, I think, have something in the neighborhood of 30-something players signed for next year, but have eaten up a great deal of that cap because of those huge contracts, because of those top-of-the-market players that they have rewarded on the team. In order to fill in the rest with suitable talent, they need to find some gems in the rough. So maybe that's the thinking. We got to bring in 23 guys because we got to find some studs amongst them.
Never know if you'll trip and fall over a very good player that emerges out of all the players you get. Maybe you find 2 or 3 that are really good. Some are solid depth. Some are very good special teamers.
Yeah.
Never know.
You never know. And Sean 951 agrees with that. Sean 951 Niners at Rob Schuh. The 49ers have a lot of big contracts. They also need to have enough guys to get to 90 for camp. They do need the bodies. They absolutely do. My fear is that I haven't seen a great track record of the 49ers being able to suss out who exactly are those studs from the rookies. It doesn't seem like Kyle Shanahan and his staff have a great deal of trust immediately placed onto rookies. And if you don't trust them and you don't allow them the practice reps, it's hard to then figure out which ones are the best and should be kept.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to talk to you about the second topic is I'm good, Bryant. How are you?
Nice.
For when the Debo situation happened, I have to commend the 49ers front office for not biting and taking the cheese.
They were restrained.
I mean, all they had to do was let Debo kind of huff and puff and do all these kind of things. If the team said, hey, right before training camp, let's really start the negotiations, I would have said, all right, that's fine. I'm not going to have, as I said, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I mean, that's just the way it is for how the 49ers usually do business.
Right. I mean, I thought for sure he had pressured his way out. I thought for sure. But then again, this is the second time that I've been psyched out by social media stuff. Aaron Rodgers got me the other year before the draft when he was playing hardball. He wasn't going to come back to the Packers and he needed to get traded. I bought into that. I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to actually play hardball. And then when he was back on the Packers, I had to roll my eyes and say, all right, there was a lot of tough talk, a lot of bravado, a lot of ego in that. But the end result, the money talked. And I think that's the case here as well. And the 49ers knew it. They knew that there was some bluster there. They knew that Debo was legitimately upset. I don't think that is something we can debate. Debo was pissed about something. We may never know what exactly it was that caused his blood to boil at the level that it did. But he took offense and he voiced that. The 49ers made it through the storm and they braved the storm and they got to the other side. And now it seems like they've mended fences to the point where I'm not going to be surprised at all once the deal gets announced.
I'm going to be thinking there's going to be an announcement maybe around training camp or maybe into training camp a little bit. But one other thing I could think of is when training camp starts.
Yes.
There was an article from CBS Sports, not to say I believe everything. As they say, you got to believe everything with a grain of salt.
That's right.
But they're believing that that the front office is going to try and deal Jimmy around training camp or give or take, just because maybe they'll have another Sam Bradford for Teddy Bridgewater situation, which hasn't happened since then.
Nope.
And
to count on an injury would be crazy in my book. But at the same time, they have nothing to gain by releasing him at this actual point in time, right? It doesn't seem like they're itching to get the Debo deal done right now. Doesn't feel like there are any free agents available that they would be going after. You never know about that. But it feels like something has to happen sometime soon.
Yeah, because I believe they are very much up against the cap as we're speaking. They're less than $1 million under it, and they still need to find a way to sign the rookie class and have some money entering the season in case a player does get injured very early, and they need to find someone to replace him. Hopefully it's on the roster, or it's just to sign another free agent off the street as depth. But
it would be a double win for me to extend Jimmy Ward. I get that they're not ready to release Jimmy Garoppolo just yet. They still think they can trade him. I would like the 49ers to be committed to Jimmy Ward beyond this season. To me, the extension there makes a ton of sense. It frees up some money and it gives you the flexibility to hold on to Jimmy G until you can get some type of compensation, which it seems the 49ers are convicted that they must do. Whether it is ego driven by John Lynch wanting to win this trade scenario, or whether they just feel that passionately about getting some assets back in return for a player they believe has value, I see that as the most likely scenario.
As I say, I'll believe Jimmy is off this roster when there's actual news of it. As I say, I don't wish bad on Jimmy. I just, but they did the press conference at the end of the season, and now you're speaking out of the other side of your mouth. I mean, It's either one or the other, guys. You can't be, it's not like you and I are at the blackjack table, and I'm just keeping my mouth quiet because I know I got a mediocre hand, and I think I could beat you.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, hey, Korean 49er, I always love the calls. I got the waiting room down there. Got to get to it, but this
one
is
last
phenomenal.
thing. I love the saloon logo back.
The saloon font is phenomenal.
Yes.
It is phenomenal. Did you see that I used it on the thumbnail tonight?
I did see that because I was
My
missing
man.
it with that generic Nike made logo or whoever made that logo.
I'm telling you, it's a nice contrast. Yes, the
Yes.
saloon font is back.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Rob.
Hey, we'll see you again soon, my friend.
Yep. Later, brother.
All right, take care. All right, getting to a couple of comments, and then we're bringing in Swan Song, and then very excited to bring Rohan onto the program. Very excited for that. Looking here, Charles Thurman saying, Rob, put Jimmy on the road kicking cans. There are a lot of folks feeling that. And then Ernesto saying, Jimmy isn't going anywhere. It'd be interesting if Jimmy didn't go anywhere. That would really fascinate me. Celts Chronicle, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Jimmy came in Halloween with the 43rd pick. I could see some management trying to wait to get that same 43rd pick back. LOL. There seems to be some hesitancy to let go of Jimmy Garoppolo without getting something in return. I get it. He's an asset that has value. All right, let us bring in Swan Song to the program. Swan Song, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm fantastic. I just realized that because I know Ekim as well as I do, and because I know you, I have yet to put up my little cover to keep it true to the audio only. And I totally trust Rohan next as well, so it's not like I need to cover that up either. But if anybody requests that, I certainly can put it on.
Right on, right on.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm always happy to go after Korean 49er because then I look like a beam of light.
That positivity coming through in your voice.
I love Korean 49er because for me, I'm always waffling left and right just because I get emotional. So for Korean 49er, you always know where his take's going to be. And I love it. I love him for that.
Yes, so, they are definitely they're impassioned, and I love it. At times you can get a unique perspective on something I haven't come up with myself, and that's always refreshing.
Yeah. So yeah, the Debo stuff, I'm glad that's behind us, although that's not a done deal. But I think the worst I ever got was a 50-50. I was never like, oh no, 90% Debo's gone, and I was never too confident that he was going to stay. But now I'm like 90-10 confident that he's
things would need to melt down in some unpredictable way for him to be gone. I agree. I would say I hit that 51-49, maybe even 55-45. Like I was leaning towards Debo was gone. I just got that sense that he had gone beyond the pale where he was not willing to come back. Things were beyond repair for him. And if the 49ers had believed that to be true, I think they would have dealt him. So they must have had additional information or a feeling about the relationship that led them to believe it could be repaired.
Yeah, and what I love was that, I don't know if you remember all those tweets that Tony Jefferson was making and Odell Beckham was making right before the draft. Like they were saying things like, oh, we have the goods on Debo, he's going to go to the Jets or whatever. Right. They were trolling, right? And then George Kittle comes out. And then Trey came out. But when I saw those two guys come out and actually say something, I knew at that point that it was safe for them to say something. Because if they were good teammates and they wanted to prolong the Debo narrative, like Debo's narrative of him being off the team or a chance being off the team, then they would have said nothing, right? They would have not shown like their cards in a way, right?
Right.
And once they did that, I knew, there's a sign right there that something positive is happening behind the scenes that we all don't know, because there's no way as a teammate, if Debo was my teammate, I would not even speak on it unless I knew it was cool.
Right.
Right.
Right. Because you don't want to mess with his business. Like that is business. Exactly. That's not personal. That's his money. You don't mess with another man's money.
Yeah. And I love seeing that. I've been down on George Kittle for so long just because, of last year, not because of his playing or his heart or any of that, but just as how he danced around, the Jimmy G and Trey.
Yeah, when he was asked about the Jimmy G Trey Lance situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I always like, just because of my negativity towards Jimmy, I took it as in like against Trey in a way, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I apologize to him about that.
George, I'm sorry. George, if you can hear me, if you can hear Swan Song is apologizing.
I like him again. As far as the draft goes, I thought, of course, it turned out totally different than what I thought it was going to be, except for like two picks. But I really like.
I only got 2 picks right as well. I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah. I will comment that I understand why the Niners probably didn't go offensive line on their first pick, is because I think at that point where they were at 61, it was either going to be a pick that wasn't very sexy and probably couldn't contribute right away, or it would have been a reach, right? So let's say at 61, I think they could have gotten Parham. I wouldn't have mind that pick, but the thing about it is you could actually see a scenario where we get Parham and he doesn't even play.
Right.
And then how mad are 49ers fans going to be? That means your 2 first pick or your
another guard.
Your another guard picked in the 2nd round is not playing. Like, what are you guys doing? Right? Like, they would have heard that.
That would have been a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, you would have heard that. And then on top, like, I think it's a steeper learning curve to get on that offensive line, as opposed to Drake Jackson is like, dude, it's 3rd down, go get the quarterback. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's a kind of, with, deep as an edge rusher, you kind of play on a vacuum. So I think there's more, and they need that, because there's no one on that team that is on a contract that's, besides Bosa, that's going to last more than a year.
Right.
So it's like,
the 49ers are a turnstile factory for getting these players paid along the defensive line, right? It's why we'll always be able to bring fresh bodies in that regard. There's always going to be some veteran defensive lineman who's like, I want to play for Chris Kosterick.
Right. And I do like that for sure. And it's awesome, but it's like, at least let's have one stable guy on the left-hand side.
Right. Let's lock somebody down long term.
And if you look at that kid, man, there's a lot of upside there. I'm excited. At first I was kind of like, okay, these SoCal kids, man, I don't know, because I'm from SoCal. I know how these high school kids are, especially like great athletes. They're pampered more. I mean, I know all athletes are pampered, but especially in SoCal, they are pampered. But but when I found out that he has a great work ethic, he is a coach's kid. He's done everything that his coaches wanted in high school and in college at USC, right? He's gained 25 pounds or lost 25 pounds when the team wanted him to lose it. So he's got those things. I know that he has some maturity things, but whatever. He's young. He's 20. Come on.
Right.
Like, who doesn't have maturity issues?
I had some serious maturity issues myself.
Yeah, and how these players are now, they're way more mature. Even the immature ones these days are more mature than the ones back in the 80s. Because I think they're smart. I think kids are smarter now. Like the kids that want to be in the NFL and want to be in pro sports, they've seen all the bad stories.
Yeah, they've seen the horror stories. They know the social media can take them off track. They know that one storyline is all you need to drop in the draft.
Yeah, they're a lot more savvy to that. And I think they're smarter kids. I think social media's kind of police them in a certain way. So I liked our draft. The pick, the running back pick was kind of weird, but I get it. If they were losing their guys, because if you look at the draft board, before we picked TDP, Cam Taylor-Britt was off the board and Sean Ryan was off the board. And those are 2 guys that they interviewed. So they might have gone for one of those guys, but once those guys are off the board, I bet you they're like, hey, let's just get this running back that we want, like, before we lose them. And hey, if you look, I didn't like the pick initially, but instantly because I had no idea who it was.
Right.
Instantly when I YouTubed him, like right when they made the pick, okay, I want to see who this guy is. Man, he looked pretty damn good. I was impressed. I was like, okay, this is cool. I like this, so I don't know what it's going to look like for, our current running backs, but I think what we have, I'm excited. I think he could be the sleeper draft pick that everyone goes, dang, I'm glad we got this kid.
Right.
Like,
It will. I mean, we will flip our script if all of a sudden it turns out that we got a good value.
yeah.
When I look at the highlights there as well, I do think his highlight reels jump off the tape. It's seeing that consistently. It's wondering if the production, it came in flashes at times. It's wondering if it can be more consistent. And you're just looking at, a running back by committee style of running back. Does that fit with a third round grade versus some of the other needs that at least fans felt were there glaring on the team? But I think for the most part, it caught people off guard. If it had been a household name at running back, I think there would have been far less of a kerfluffle from fans.
Yeah, I totally get it. I understand why, because I was like that. I think 99% of the fan base was like that, if not more. I saw a thing that showed week 1 and week 2 being away games. I don't know if this is true or not. Some Twitter leaked it. It's the Falcons, I think, and
I think it starts at Carolina and then goes to Atlanta in week 2.
Yeah,
that would be great, right?
Oh my God, it would be amazing. It is the best situation for us because 1, it gives Trey Lance a runway, right? With these 2 mediocre teams.
Yep.
It's our 2 big travel destinations on the schedule. You wipe those right out of and if it's week 1, it really doesn't matter because you're fresh. It doesn't. Yeah. You're probably going to be.
And the Niners love to stay on the East Coast when they have them back to back, and so they would stay out there the week in between. You would think.
Yeah, and then after those 2 games are done, right? Let's say we go 2-0, very likely, right? The furthest east we go is the Bears, and that's an easy game. Come on, that's a slam dunk right there. So
that would be phenomenal.
I did a quick, wins and losses prediction for this year already. And I have this going 11-6.
Ooh, I like that.
And it's such an easy 11-6. All the big games I have. Okay, so we'll start in the division.
Yeah.
I have us going 2-0 against the Seahawks.
Okay, that's fair.
Right? That's fair,
they don't have
right?
anybody at quarterback.
Yeah. And then I split with the rest of the NFC.
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
NFC West.
Yep.
I have us losing.
So 4-2 in the division.
Yeah, I have us losing to the Bucks, the Chargers. The Chiefs, like it's fair. I mean, I think we're going to win one of those games, but I just put them as losses because I think that's totally fair. Yeah. And then I have us beating, the Saints, the Dolphins, all these kind of like teams that we don't know about. I don't have
middle of the road.
Yeah, middle of the road teams. But pretty much all the hard teams outside of our division, I have us losing. And then all the mediocre teams and bad teams, I have us winning. And that puts us at 11-6.
Hey, it works for Russell James. Party Pooper came in to say he had them at 11-6 last season, but likes that same record again. Tom Bragg coming in. We can do better than 11-6 if Trey really hits.
Yeah, for sure.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I think you're making the assumption that, Trey comes out and has sort of a sophomore season, right? Not lighting the world on fire, but doing well.
You know what? The more things that I see with Trey, and of course we're going to find out in this next month.
Yeah.
But before this month goes, like just the way that I feel things, like the news that I consume and things like that. I would not be surprised if Trey goes out there, and this is not an expectation because I don't expect him to do this. And if he doesn't do it, I'm not going to be mad or anything like that because it'll be what it is what it is, right? But I am predicting. And this is different from an expectation because if he doesn't do this, I'm not going to be one way or the other. 4,000 yards passing, 30 TDs, 11 INTs, 500 rushing yards, 5 rushing TDs.
That would be a phenomenal year.
Yeah, and with the weapons that he has, it's like I'm glad Debo's back. I'm glad Ayuk. I hope Kittle. Is more involved in offense. I hope Juice is more involved in offense. We're not going to need to use Debo that much because, we all know why we used him last year. And now that we have, TDP, Elijah Mitchell, second-year Sermon, I'm really positive about this team right now. And, I can't wait. It feels like forever since we've seen any, OTAs or anything like that. So I know that hopefully we see something this weekend.
We will see something. I guarantee it.
It's like, oh, I'm looking at other teams. I'm Googling other teams like the Bears. You can see stuff. You can see stuff with the Dolphins, the Jets, and Niners is like locked down. Like no one knows anything. It's crazy.
Oh, man. Man, well, I feel pretty good about Trey's stats. I have him probably about 500 passing yards short of that. I think it's probably more in the neighborhood of a 35 to 3,800 passing yards. But I agree that he's going to be there in the neighborhood of 500 rushing yards. And I do think it's going to produce a phenomenal season for the 49ers, even if it, looks not average, but less than stellar at the quarterback position. I do not think this team is going to be 100% dependent upon Trey Lance. The rest of this roster is most definitely stacked, and I'm looking forward to seeing it as well.
Yeah, and how I see it is I think he's going to start off conservative but efficient, and then I think the second half of the year is when you're going to start seeing things like, wow. That's what I'm looking forward to, and it can happen. Like people think it's crazy. Like I know that I was in Twitter Spaces and some other Dolphin fans are like, "Oh man, you're crazy. You're just wasn't." I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. It's like this is not that crazy. If you look at Carson Wentz's second year on the Eagles,
right.
I mean, and everyone at NDSU, from what I know of the NDSU insider, said that everyone at NDSU, all the fans, think Trey Lance is a better QB than Carson Wentz.
And those are people that got an up close and personal view of it.
Right. So, yeah, I'm positive. I think I can't wait. It's like, Let's go.
Yes, I'm with you. I am with you. It will come soon enough, but it can't come soon enough for us, Swan Song. That is something that we are looking forward to. I always appreciate the call, good sir.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You take care.
You too.
All right. I'm taking the overlay off because we've got Rohan coming in. Rohan, welcome to the stream. First of all, we have not met, but I have obviously followed you on Twitter and seen you on several other shows as well. But am I pronouncing your first name correctly, just to get that right off of the bat?
So I say Rohan, but yeah, I'm fine either way.
Nice. Okay. Well, I prefer to get it the way that it's intended to be said. So Rohan it is. And I'm guessing that I've flipped back and forth in saying it in different ways because sometimes I feel one way and another day I'll feel another. But with a last name like Schuh, you can be guaranteed I have heard my fair share of mispronunciations as well. First and foremost, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm good, and thank you for obviously having the call-in show and having me on. I have mad respect for you as well with your YouTube, and obviously I've seen you on Twitter as well. So thank you for having this show for everybody to come on.
You are quite welcome. I have been meaning to reach out to you on Twitter and extend the invitation to get a collaboration going. So we'll make that happen after this, but this is our official foyer into a collaboration. So what do you have on your mind this evening when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers? What storyline is it that is eating away at your brain?
Yeah, so I mean, I saw the last caller talk a little bit about how the TDP pick was a little surprising. And I said this on my channel the other day, and I wanted to kind of pick your brain on it. And that was the 49ers obviously selected a running back in the third round when they might have had other pressing needs and could have gone in other routes with better players potentially. But as we saw last year and we saw this year, Kyle Shanahan likes these certain running backs that he believes best fits his system. Trey Sermon last year, he traded up almost 40 spots to get him. This year it's TDP where we stay put at 93, probably selecting maybe a round or two earlier than the media expected. And so for me, I wanted to throw out a scenario. If Elijah Mitchell last year was drafted in the third round where Trey Sermon was drafted, that would be considered technically a reach because he was a fifth or a sixth round player in media eyes. However, if he had the season that he had this year, how would you how would you perceive Elijah Mitchell's rookie season? Would you think, oh my God, it's a reach, or would you be appreciative of the season that he had and think that that was a good pick by the 49ers?
That's a very interesting way to look at the question. I mean, when you look at the end production, you might have more harshly criticized Elijah Mitchell for some of his shortcomings that people just completely glossed over because of the fact that he was a late round gem.
Exactly.
We may have heard a bit more of, oh, well, he can't stay healthy and that's a negative against him. Whereas people were just so grateful to have found a 6th-round talent that it was like, he's getting dinged up because we're overusing him and he gets so many carries on every given game. So you may have heard more about his injury history or ability to stay healthy. But when I look at it purely from a number of games played and production in those games, I would have to say he would have completely justified a 3rd-round selection.
Right. And I think that that's backed up, especially when we saw how Aaron Banks didn't play much last year. The first draft pick that you drafted that was really productive would have been then Elijah Mitchell. And so that's where I'm trying to offer this objective point about TDP. Because in my opinion, I think Tyrion Davis-Price has the ability to be the most productive running back, or sorry, not running back, but player from this class, especially in year one, where not many other players have a clear route to getting snaps, at least early on. And so if Tyrion Davis-Price is an effective complement to Elijah Mitchell, perhaps we have that 2019 system where it was like 137 carry split between Mostert and Tevin Coleman. And while people might bash on Tevin Coleman for only having a 4.1 yards per carry average, everyone would say that that was a pretty effective complement back then. And that's why we got to the point we were. And so I think if Davis-Price has a year like Coleman's, I think we would be appreciative even with that 3rd-round selection.
The Tevin Coleman comparison is very apt, and he never got the credit that the man deserved. He was the meat tenderizer in that combination. He got those ugly yards that hurt and I'm sure wore on his body over the long term. And yet it set up Mostert to have those home runs. And I never felt as if San Francisco fans in the vast majority gave him the credit where credit was due for his role within that offense. But I agree, it's an important one. And I've found it interesting on several shows so far in breaking down this draft. I have simultaneously said that my most head-scratching pick was Davis-Price, and the player most likely to have the greatest amount of success in year one was Davis-Price. So it is this weird dichotomy of believing that, yes, in fact, he can produce for the 49ers and can produce at a level that you should be able to say to yourself, well, that was worth a 3rd-round selection. And at the same time, you're saying to yourself, why did we use that 3rd-round selection on him? So it is one of those that if he is the bell cow that he can be, if he gets the vast majority or close to a split in carries, as you suggest, I think you're absolutely going to be able to look back and say that it was the juice was worth the squeeze, that he was worth the 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking on that, I wanted to, we just talked a bit about a head-scratching pick. I wanted to pick your brain. Now, a week and a half-ish after the draft, now that we've gotten to think, what was your favorite selection out of this class?
That's a tough one. I'm tempted to say right off of the bat that it was Drake Jackson. I mean, that was one that I had mocked to the 49ers. I had mocked him to the Niners in a draft where I had given up Deebo Samuel. I had given up Deebo Samuel for the number 10 overall pick to the Jets because I felt that that's all they were really going to be willing to part with in that deal if we did get it done. And I wanted to show people what the 10 pick could be turned into. So I took the 10, I turned it into a slew of picks. With one of those picks, I think at 53 maybe, I took Drake Jackson, and I was very pleased with that. I'm also a big fan of the Danny Gray selection, but I understand that I should view that one with a bit of skepticism. I need to see that man catching the deep passes in preseason before I have the level of optimism that I initially had coming out. Some of the people that I trust in draft nicks and folks that have done some evaluation have shared their concerns with Danny Gray in the fact that he catches against the chest and does not have the strongest set of hands. So I'm going to want to see him develop that and be able to catch those over-the-shoulder balls, which apparently he doesn't struggle with as much as the ones that are in front of him. But, that's something that, again, you just got to see him catching those passes from Trey Lance.
Yeah, most definitely. And speaking of Danny Gray, I think something the 49ers can implement that kind of benefits both sides in a way, at least early on, is utilizing him in these short passes and mainly screen game. Because Danny Gray, as we've seen, he's a guy of toughness. He's a guy who works and excels really with that speed after the catch and those quick hitter passes in a way. They help you concentrate on your hands because the action of running after the catch. You don't necessarily have to run with the ball in your hands at first, helping Danny Gray kind of gain confidence as he enters the NFL. I'd kind of like to see the 49ers kind of go a path like that, at least to begin his career. And I think, especially in the limited role that he'll likely play in year one, given the amount of depth that we have, I do think that he's got the capacity to do that while also running those clear out routes where he'll be utilized for those over-the-shoulder catches.
I was pretty surprised to see that in last year's NCAA rankings, I think he was 4th or 5th in yards after the catch, that he is quite capable in that regard. And oftentimes you don't see that from someone who has the wheels that Danny Gray does. But I think you're onto something there, that he may be a far more complete player than, some of the highlights might indicate.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about it. I see Itchy95 says Drake Jackson or Kalia Davis. And I intended that question. I was going to answer it with Kalia Davis because obviously the easy pick is Drake Jackson.
Yes.
But I have some intrigue with Davis, not only because of the player, but because what it allows for the 49ers in 2022. We saw last year how the 49ers tried to get players on the practice squad.
Yes.
Most importantly, Justin Hilliard, the linebacker out of Ohio State, their prize signing. And he was picked up by the New York Giants off of waivers. So I don't necessarily think the 49ers can implement that strategy too many times this year and have everybody go on the practice squad. However, with Davis, I think you can put him on the PUP list, put him on the NFI list, one of those two where obviously he misses the first 6 games, but you have the depth where that's okay. And in addition, you can bring another body onto the roster, which therefore helps you in the first 6 weeks when you want to preserve those bodies more, allows you to bring another defensive lineman, a proven veteran in that room, probably of a bunch of young guys. And I think that would be very helpful for the 49ers with a team that is really, really into that depth at the position.
I couldn't agree more. This to me was a very prudent pick. At some point, I said to myself, the 49ers should trade one of these late round draft picks for a pick in 2023. We again do not have our first round draft pick, obviously because of the trade up to get Trey Lance. That's just fine. We can make do with the picks that we have, but it's nice to have those additional assets if you want to get yourself back up into the first round, if you find that player that you covet. But then when I look back at the value the 49ers were able to get with these picks towards the end of this year's draft, I understand why potentially, even if they explored the possibility of trading out of 2022 and picking up some additional ammunition for 2023, that these picks were just too tempting. I know fans are upset with the idea of selecting someone for the all ACL team. We have a long history, a bad track record of getting these guys coming off of ACL injuries, coming out of college, and they're of value when we grab them, and then they turn into nothing. And I get the frustration from fans. But it's a game of statistics, right? Just because you had one player that struggled with a knee injury that was unable to recuperate from it and get playing time does not have any bearing on future draft selections. At some point in time, you have to look at how many of those players you have on your team, and are you creating an imbalance where you're skewing towards players that have long, rich injury histories. And I think the 49ers looked in the mirror and said to themselves at some point last year, the year prior, we need to stop this. We have to curtail it. They got away from it last year. The one dipping of their toe back into those waters, I think it was prudent here for exactly the reason you're talking about. It's going to allow them to sneak an additional qualified body onto the roster through the probably physically unable to perform list, and then bring them back because there's attrition. Someone will get injured. This is football. You'll be able to bring in a backup. So I am with you that the value of that pick, and I think maybe that would have changed my answer if we were talking about greatest value. I might have had to go with that one because it was a phenomenal value.
Yeah, and I agree. And real quick before I leave, just to poke your mind here, you talked about compensatory picks and how the 49ers were able to utilize those this year to select some very, very good players, right? We saw Danny Gray with that 3rd round selection. We saw two valuable players in Kalia Davis and then Tariq Castro-Fields with our 6th round picks. And then I'm not sure if Brock Purdy, I believe he was a compensatory pick, but I'm not exactly sure. I think that, so you get those 4. The 49ers have a situation on their hands, obviously, with Jimmy Garoppolo, where they can likely get a 3rd round compensatory pick, and they've seemed to value those fairly heavily. If you were the 49ers, would you take that 3rd round pick, roster him for 2022, with the problems obviously that could potentially arise with the 2 quarterback room and the scrutiny that Trey Lance could potentially face, or would you cut him when he becomes healthy?
I would cut him when he becomes healthy. I can see the other argument. I don't think that the other argument is without merit.
Right.
There is some logic to the idea of approaching Jimmy Garoppolo, attempting to keep him on the roster at a renegotiated salary, right? It would seem like madness to me to keep him at his existing salary. That's just a crazy amount of money to be paying a backup quarterback. And that dynamic would then be a very stressful one for Trey. If you can get Jimmy to take a reduced salary and remain as a backup, at least you have very clearly structured it in a way that you are now dictating through, money,
Your
through
actions,
the dollars talking, that he is the backup, and it changes the dynamic a little. But it would still be, as soon as something bad happened for Trey, which, let's be clear, the man is a sophomore coming into the NFL. There are going to be some bad things that happen for him throughout the season. I just don't want that turmoil for him. So my preference is definitely the clean break. When you have invested as much as you have in Trey Lance, I don't think it's stretching yourself too much further to then just put all your chips, all your eggs in that basket. You basically already have. Now it's just a matter of going that one step further. But in direct answer to the third round compensatory that you might get the next year if Jimmy is signed, I'd like to think that the 49ers, once Jimmy's healthy, will be offered something for him. It won't be what they were hoping for. It won't be what I was hoping for. But I would rather get out from underneath Jimmy at that point for whatever it is that comes the 49ers' way, and not have to deal with the drama of one more season with Jimmy and Trey in the locker room and all the questions that must follow every single week.
I 100% agree with that, man. And before I leave, thank you so much for having me on. And be sure to subscribe, everyone in the chat, all you sneakerheads. Be sure to subscribe. Amazing content here. Thank you, Rob.
Rohan, this was a pleasure, and we will absolutely make a collaboration happen offline, my friend.
You know it.
All right. Very nice. We've got CJ Gray coming up. William Bennett is in the house. William, I see you, my man. Yes. Cheers, William. And Bullpup 33 down there as well. We will get into it. We got a couple of audio only callers coming in with William in between. Let me get my banner up there. The overlay is here. All right, CJ Gray coming into the program. CJ, how you doing today?
Back in the building again. The last time that we spoke, I was talking about the Deebo Samuel situation and the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, and the Deebo's surprisingly still here. And
yes,
I didn't see that coming.
I thought that it was trending in the direction of a trade. I honestly did. I put it into my mock draft. I was pleasantly surprised when day one ended in the NFL draft and Deebo was still a San Francisco 49er. I lit up a stogie that night and I was smoking that one, thinking about the victory of Deebo still on the Niners.
Yeah, but we still have one problem remaining.
Yeah,
we got that Jimmy.
Yeah,
situation
we do.
Lingering around, and I'll just speak on that real quick. The Jimmy situation being around is pretty, and them not naming Trey the starter is causing all these felonious reports by anybody that wants to get a click. That's why we got to get rid of Jimmy, and we got to tell the world that Trey is a starter. Get the teammates the teammates can't even come out publicly and say, if they get asked who's the starter, we got to ask the coach or GM and blah 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 blah.
Right.
That shouldn't even be the case at this point. How many winning teams generally go into a season not knowing who their starting quarterback is at this point?
Teams that are considered to be playoff contenders, I would say that's next to zero.
And that's my point. And so
yep.
You just lead to a whole bunch of noise, and they can quash the noise by just saying, "Hey, trade the starter," and that's it. And because Jimmy really doesn't have any trade value, I just don't
No,
know.
he doesn't. And that's why I'm confused about not coming out to say it. To your point, it is causing drama. I don't think anyone can dispute that. And I just don't get where the 49ers believe they're gaining some type of leverage. Like, oh, no, there's still some team out there that believes we're going to actually start Jimmy this year. And so we won't name anybody the official starter until we can get that trade deal worked out. No one believes that. Everyone knows that Trey Lance is going to be the starter. You just refuse to say it at this point. So I'm with you.
Florio, Florio already called BS on it. He straight up did. He's like, you're not fooling me. You're not fooling any of these other teams. So only thing you're doing is hurting your program by doing that. But the carry off of that, I hear a lot of talk about the TDP pick. And
yes.
And at first, it was a kind of a shocking pick to me because I thought that we probably should have got Nick Cross with that 93rd selection. And perhaps we probably maybe could have gotten Price with the 134 or something like that. But I don't hate the player itself. I just don't like the location of it. But flat out, we're a running team. Running is what we do.
Yes, that's a fact. That's the strength.
So why not focus on getting the topper tier of talent at running back on our team every season, just about, because that's what we do. And I understand this is not very popular to say, but I don't know how good Elijah Mitchell was last year. I know he was better than expected, but when you turn on the tape a lot, there's a lot of him running up the back of linemen and stuff like that.
Yes, and not making the appropriate cut in the secondary.
And then also, too, it seems like he was kind of more undersized than what the workload that Shanahan wanted to put on him. And that's why he kept missing games. So
yeah, the body was not handling that wear and tear very well.
So his greatest strength was his speed, but if he's broken down and hurt, then his speed is kind of negated because he's injured. And then he doesn't really have either A, he doesn't have the vision to hit the holes, or B, he's too injured to have the speed to still hit the holes when he sees it. One way or the other, there was a lot of meat left on the bone with Mitchell last season, and I think TDP can go ahead and clear that meat off the bone, because TDP on those tapes, if you look at him, man, he's when he sees the hole, he's decisive. He hits it right away, and it's like when he sees the hole and he goes in the hole, it's like a freight train coming down that hole.
He has that bowling ball effect, much like Deebo Samuel. I mean, Deebo Samuel weighs in at 220 or right around there, and that was the heaviest back that the Niners had last year, and he wasn't technically a running back. He was a wide back, emphasis on wide. And now you have a 230-pound back who is a running back who can come in and take that punishment and absorb those big hits that were going to Deebo last year. And it would seem like there's a need for that role on the 49ers. I mean, it really is a weird dichotomy for me to say repeatedly that, like, I question the value of the pick, and it's very likely he's our most productive rookie next year. That is a strange couple of sentences to stitch together.
And I was saying in the chat that I had kind of a hot take on TDP, and I'm probably going to get roasted. I'm not saying that he's this guy, because this guy is clearly a Hall of Famer. I don't want to get roasted. I'm
getting set for this one now.
But he kind of reminds me of the Los Angeles Rams version of Jerome Bettis.
Jerome Bettis. Okay.
I don't know if you recall him before he got to Pittsburgh. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. But
yeah, I mean,
Jerome Bettis was like a god out.
I'm getting flashes of it.
Yeah, look up Jerome Bettis when he was playing for the Rams, and look at that size and the speed, like the speed combination of sub 4.5, but playing weight around 230. And because Bus got real big when he got to Pittsburgh, he was still real effective.
Yes,
but he wasn't as fast.
He did.
He wasn't as small. So, but in Los Angeles, you're a terror, man. I don't know if you remember Tecmo Super Bowl on the Super Nintendo, man. Jerome Bettis was my man. Off that Los Angeles Rams.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I have seen a lot of comparisons to, this is not the first one I've seen from Rich Ryan, but he brings it up here as well. Alfred Morris being a comparison for TDP.
Yeah, I mean, Morris was a little slower. I don't recall Alfred Morris's 40 time, but I'm pretty sure he's a little slower than that. I think this would be better than Alfred Morris, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's solid news. I mean, he certainly was successful within the Shanahan system. So I think fans would be very pleased if TDP comes out and lights it up like that. And I will say especially to echo Sean 9519er's comment here, I'm a fan of Mitchell. Don't get it twisted on that. But Sean 9519er's coming in. Yeah, and I didn't interpret that you weren't, CJ. But Sean coming in, Mitchell was playing very well in a needed spot until he got hurt. Then week 10 versus the Ram with the season on the line, Debo became the featured back and never relinquished it. Mitchell is solid. I think you get nothing but agreement from CJ and I about Mitchell being solid, and that there had been room for upgrade as evidenced by Debo being able to come in and upgrade the position and do more with it than Elijah Mitchell, which, I mean, for a player as special as Debo is, no surprise there, I suppose. But with TDP coming in, I agree. I just think it's going to be a complementary type of a role for him with Elijah Mitchell. I don't think that it steals away from what Elijah Mitchell is going to be able to do. I think it adds to it by having this meat tenderizer role for such a heavier every down back. Did I lose you, CJ? Uh-oh, we may have lost CJ on that one. CJ, those were dope points. I always enjoy our conversations. We will make sure to get it going again. We will have you back on, CJ. Appreciate the contributions. All right. Oh, we are bringing in William Bennett to the program. Hold on, William. We got something covering up William Bennett. And there's no need to cover up William Bennett. William, welcome to the program, sir. Cheers.
Cheers, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm feeling good. I'm anxious. I am anxious for some football. I'm anxious for some actual clips of my San Francisco 49ers doing things, but we're getting there. The draft has now come and gone. We're going to get to that point where any of these remaining free agents out there are going to start getting signed slowly but surely. We're going to start seeing some actual practice clips of the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to get the schedule release. The NFL has done such a good job of this little drip campaign of just keeping us hooked 12 months out of the freaking year, William, and I am on board with that.
Yeah. Somebody's definitely earning their money.
Yes, they are. They have figured out a way to capitalize on all of our money. That is a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's deservedly so. All these rich NFL owners, deservedly so. They have schemed it up well.
Yeah, the Niners are masters of controlling their narrative.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, man. So what were your thoughts? What were your takeaways? I don't want to steal anything if you got a specific topic you want to get into, but I'm interested just to hear general thoughts on the draft. Like, it came and went. Did you feel good about it? Were you sort of perplexed by any of the moves? Did you feel it was weird that the Niners selected 9 players? Were you expecting some trades? Like, what were your high-level takeaways from the draft?
I think, like every other Niner fan, I was basically watching the draft, waiting to see what happened with Debo.
Right.
So really, that's the first round was just waiting to see if Debo was traded for me. Once we got past, like, let's say in the 20s, I was like, yeah, they're not trading him. I had no thought that they would trade him for a 30th pick or anything of that nature. Right. We would have. Who I would have wanted for us to go for, which would have been Christian Watson. But I'm surprised to be honest, I'm surprised a lot of people went to second round. I was shocked by that.
That was a late selection. I was surprised that he made it at the end of the first round as well. By the way, people already spotted the Green Lantern shirt. The continuation of the trend.
I told you I would wear a different hero shirt until the season started.
Yes, sir.
But I would say I wasn't mad at our draft. I think it was a good draft. I think it was a decent draft. I think it was a draft that fit what they're trying to do. And as I told Grant, I don't think we on a rebuild. I think we on a renovation.
Okay.
We have a lot of stars with big contracts that, you know, we got to start lightening that load somewhere.
Yeah.
So
you got to fill out a 53-man roster.
Right. And everybody can't be a millionaire.
That's right. That's right. As much as they want to be, they can't all get there.
But I think you know, the team has been trending towards Trey Lance.
Yes.
First with the coaching, now with the players. And you're starting to see some of the players are starting to get on board with that. And they're like, okay. And I think, honestly, not just the rookies, but I think even some of the veterans are a little, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they love Jimmy, and we all know we all love Jimmy for the things he's done for the team.
Yeah, he was supposedly a great teammate. Everybody had great things to say about him in the locker room, for sure.
Right, but everybody's kind of ready to move on. And to be honest, like you, I'm ready for training camp. I'm ready for football. You got me here watching the the SFL. I mean, the USFL, my bad. Because I'm just ready for football. I ain't got nothing against any other sport.
No. I like some NBA playoffs. That's, I'm not much in the regular season unless I'm going to games, but once we get to the playoffs, it's interesting, but it pales in comparison to football.
I like baseball. I'm originally from the South. In my town, baseball is like a family sport. Like we literally have a field in the middle of my town, and on certain nights, the whole town is there. You know what I'm saying? It's a community type thing.
It brings everybody together.
Right. My town is very small. My hometown, like maybe 4,000 people. So.
Oh man, yeah, that is going back.
Definitely Mayberry. It's a Mayberry town.
Nice.
I'm just ready for football. I'm ready to see what Trey Lance. I really am not taking much heed to the negative Trey Lance talk. Especially, I listened to the radio podcast where I forgot the guy who communicated the saying of that the coaches are under. What was his name? Matt.
Oh, Lombardo, right?
Lombardo.
Yeah.
And they were asking him about his comments, and after hearing it, I'm like, oh, okay, to be honest, this is a guy who is going for clicks. And the reason I say is whoever the host asked him specifically, was this something that was past year and nothing relevant to what's going on? I think the comments he even heard was like preseason, not even preseason, like training camp.
Yeah, training camp of last freaking year.
To the season. But of course, how much did he get? How much talk did he get? How much limelight did he get? How many people actually subscribed just to even find out who he was? You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I never heard of the guy. Not to say he's not big where he's from, but
he had followers. He had some followers.
Rob Schuh. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't mad at him for trying to get his clicks up, but come on, dude. If you ain't a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem.
Yeah. It definitely didn't feel like super relevant information was being brought to the table. It felt like just a little bit of clickbait.
Yeah, it just was off. Even after seeing him, and it seemed like underwhelmed. I like what I've seen out of Trey Lance. Honestly, like I said, even with Brandon Marshall, like I said, got Kittle to open up more about Trey Lance, which they could not get him to do through the season.
No.
He said Trey Lance has advanced as far as he can in practice. It is time for him to get reps. He's gone as far as he can.
That's right.
We need to see him on the field. We need to see him, and please, faithful, don't go off if Trey Lance is not a Hall of Fame quarterback coming out the gate.
Please, William and I are asking you nicely. Don't lose it if he has a slow start.
I mean, imagine when you started your job or any job that, of course, when you first come out.
Let me say this, William. Don't go back and watch my first appearances with Grant. Do not go back and watch those first shows. It's embarrassing, right? I'm with you, William. I'm with you.
It's a learning curve on everything. Remember back when you first learned to drive. Remember everything that you first started. The first time you started playing Madden, you had to take those beatings.
Yeah, there's some L's that are coming your way.
I've lost money.
Yeah,
but I
got some speeding tickets from those early driving days, and then maybe an arrest here or there. You never know.
I really, to be honest, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know too much about Danny Gray. I did see some of his highlights, and he does look aggressive in his style of play.
Yes, very much so.
Quote unquote Debo-like.
Right.
After the catch. But, people are harping on that, he catches the ball in his chest. Trust me, they will work. That's what you have a training camp for. That's what you have practice coaches for, to fix those twerks, to see, hey, look, dude, this ain't college. You're not going to be catching that ball to your chest.
Right.
Trey Lance is going to be working with him. Ayuk are going to be working with him. They're going to be working with him. So all that about him catching the ball to his chest, they will work his mechanics out of that.
And hey, I mean, Vernon Davis did not catch the ball all that great when he came out as well. And you saw steady progression throughout his career. He was never going to be a hands guy, right? But certainly steady progression throughout his career. It's
all practice. It's all reps. It's just like we were saying about Avery Thomas. Everybody was like, oh, he's a bust. He's a bust. It's such a waste of a pick. Then by end of the season, everybody was like, oh, they riding it Thomas train.
Yeah. Oh, Avery Thomas is the man.
You know what I'm saying? So come on, just give him time. Just give him time.
I agree.
Transitioning into the Trey Lance era. If we can get to a playoff this year, I'm happy. Honestly, the way it seems like Kyle and John are kind of working, they're kind of like, we went to a championship, so this year we can actually not make a playoff run and be okay because we can fall back on that. But you got to understand something in the NFL. You can't just go off of last year.
No.
You can't say what I did last year.
No, this is the not for long league.
If you're not moving forward, I'm telling you, you got to keep moving forward. I'm looking to see. I was a little concerned that we really didn't address the safety position. That has me a little like, okay, what's going on?
So are you on the camp? Do you think that Leon O'Neal Jr. is going to somehow rise above his undrafted free agent status and maybe lay claim to that spot? Or you think it's in-house? You think they're looking at Talanoa Hufanga or George Odom? What's your gut tell you on that one?
Well, if in order for him to claim, he's going to have to play hella five ball.
Yeah.
We all know how Kyle is about rookies. And
weirdly so.
Blow him out of the water with your style of play. It's gonna be hard. Yeah. Like I said, with Ayuk got his claim to fame because everybody was hurt.
Right. If had to give him a shot.
Hurt, you wouldn't even probably have heard of Ayuk until probably going into this year. I mean, last year. You probably wouldn't have seen your first taste of Ayuk. Maybe here, a smidget there, but you would have never really heard that much from Ayuk.
Right.
But like I said, I'm just ready for football. I'm ready to see what we're going to do as a team. I'm ready to get in these training camps. I'm kind of tired of the speculation.
I hear you. I hear you.
Tired of the speculation. You know, this person and that. We did a lot of that last year. I'm kind of tired of the speculation. I'm ready for this training camp to get going. I'm ready to start seeing what people can do and put, you know what I'm saying, and can't do, to see what limitations and what's not, what's gonna fit, what ain't, who's gonna be there, who ain't gonna be here. Because you gotta understand, like you said, with us signing all these free agents and undrafted free agents and all of that, you're gonna see some veterans leaving. This is going to be the most competitive 49ers camp you've seen in a very long time, because a lot of people's jobs are on the line.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, they are.
I think it's going to be between Wilson and Hastings, whether they're coming back or not.
Ooh, Jeff Wilson Jr., JaMychal Hasty. Yep, that's fair.
I mean, you got to understand, the pick that they took Trey Sermon on and bringing in these running, man, like I said, they've been on the team for a while, and to Hastings hasn't really produced where we thought he would have been.
Yeah, that's the one to me that is most likely to get bumped off of the roster. I agree with you on that one.
Last year, honestly, to be honest, I thought Hastings was gone last year.
I thought they were going to keep Gallman over Hasty. I really did.
I thought the only thing that even brought Hastings back was that Jeff Wilson Jr. got hurt.
Right. The injury in camp, standing up from his desk.
They didn't trust Trey Sermon yet.
Right.
That's the only reason I thought he was back. It's just going to be different. Our team is going to look a little different because of the way our style of play will change. I think our team will be the more healthiest it's been in a long time, because not only you won't have to try so hard for yak yards.
Right.
You're not going to have to keep everybody in a box. People are going to actually be able to run those routes. Juszczyk is going to actually be able to run those routes and actually have somebody target him. You feel what I'm saying?
I do.
Going to be, I don't think, where we have seen some games where should have been put away, but wasn't because they were so limited to the yards of catch.
Right.
I don't think you're going to see that as much. I think
you're going to see the entire field being used, as one would hope, right?
I think you're going to, by mid-season, I think, and barring any injuries, I think you're going to see a whole different Trey Lance than you see starting the season. You understand? He's going to have to he's trying to get himself acquainted to the speed of the game, the play of the game, the level of talent he's playing against. But as you see, and he's shown it on numerous games, once he gets himself in the speed of the game, he did it with Seattle. He did it with Arizona. He did it with Houston. Once he get into the flow of the game, he turns into a whole nother quarterback. And you like, okay, I can see the rookie. And then he comes out in the second half, and you like, what did Kyle say to him?
And that makes sense to some extent, right? Because you would imagine he'd be a little bit in his head to start, and then you start playing, and at some point you get loose. At some point you stop thinking, and you're just playing football, and then you see his athleticism come through.
Like I said, I coach youth football, and a lot of times I have to tell my youth players, you're not a spectator. You're actually in the game. Get out of your head.
Stop watching it.
Stop watching the game. Get out of your head.
Right.
Stop trying to play your game. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. You know what I'm saying? So I think the young man has all the talent in the world. I think, and I hope he does prove to be who we think he is. But I definitely, to be honest, even if he's not the person who we think he is, I think he's going to be better than Jimmy. Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Hey, you're just hoping for a good 49ers team. I'm hoping the same thing.
Because he just showed me things that I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been waiting for. So
We
definitely
saw
think.
flashes of it. I saw enough to be confident. Going into this season, William. I feel good about the transition to Trey.
I promise you this. I promise you this, Rob. A lot of times when we were in those goal line drives,
yeah,
I think with Trey, we would have scored those drives.
I think that's fair in that it would have put additional stress on the defenses as soon as you get down into the red zone to have a true 11-on-11 situation.
I mean, when you see Trey Lance get in the game, those linebackers, those corners, those safeties are not just staying up front because they just like, oh, he's not going to go past this. And plus, they also realize, hey, he can run up out of here.
Right.
So they're paying more attention to him than they would to Jimmy. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I said, to be honest, Jimmy didn't get the rush as much as he could have because nobody felt like he was going to run.
No. I mean, in honesty, since the knee injury, it didn't seem like Jimmy really could run.
Yeah, like, why am I running in there? I don't need to blitz as hard. Let the edge do that. I'm going to hang right here. We already know who this guy is.
Yes, but they did. They knew exactly how to cover the field in regard to Jimmy Garoppolo.
You know what I'm saying? To me, and like I said, I'm not mad at Jimmy. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate all Jimmy has done for us. You feel what I'm saying? I think we were in such a slump, and the Yorks was in such a way of, hey, we need something to spark up the fan base. When Jimmy came along, they was just happy. They were just happy.
Absolutely. He sold season tickets. He invigorated the fan base. Like, a lot of things that were positive happened when Jimmy Garoppolo came on board. No doubt about it.
What a lot of people don't understand about football is based. There's a strong female base in football.
Yeah,
it started from when your child was in little league on up into the NFL. Football has a very strong female following. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so a lot of moms and sisters and football fans out there.
And Jimmy, to look the way he looks, Jimmy can get away with being mediocre.
Yeah, he won over a fair percentage of the fan base with that jawline.
Mediocre looks good. You know what I'm saying? So you willing to let it go? Oh, he's just so damn handsome.
Yeah, most definitely.
Hey, we could always say this: my quarterback handsomer than yours.
Well, I've always been saying, I think Trey is a handsome young gentleman himself. I think that we're not losing all that much, right? The young guy is going to step in. He's got a different look, but it's equal to Jimmy. It's not the same jawline. I get that, but I think the ladies will love Trey Lance as well.
I think they will, but this is what gotta happen. And like I said, I think what the Niners are actually waiting on is for Jimmy to pass the physical. The health physical. And if it comes down to, because you got to understand something. We got to do it again. And I've said this before. We got to do it like, if they're following that New England Belichick way of doing things, then you got to cut Jimmy.
Right. You
cannot have those voices and assurances in that locker room.
No, you don't want the doubt.
That season, everybody got to look at Trey as either Trey or bust.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I agree.
And
wholeheartedly
with it is either Mac Jones or bust. Belichick said it wasn't that I didn't think that Cam couldn't do it, but I couldn't have that shadow over his head.
Yeah, all the doubt, all the
he does bad. The first thing people are gonna yell, "Why Cam ain't playing?"
Bring in Cam.
Gotta get you gone, Jimmy.
Yeah,
gotta get you gone.
I totally agree, and I will not be at complete peace until we get to that point of the offseason where the 49ers have moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo.
Here in DC, That's all I'm hearing Commanders fans. Y'all still got Jimmy. That's all I'm hearing Cowboys fans. Y'all still got Jimmy on the books, huh? It's like,
and it's hard to say anything back because it's true. Jimmy is still here.
It's like the countdown every month. Like, start the clock over.
Are you watching Rita, who's doing the drawings of Jimmy every single day until he gets traded? Have you seen that on Twitter?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's phenomenal. She's this artist in South America. She's doing all these movie references, drawing George Kittle and Juice and Jimmy and Trey. And
where's fantastic. She's on Twitter?
Yeah, she's on Twitter and Instagram. And Eric Branch did a story on her for the SF Chronicle a couple of months into it. She's been doing it now every single day. So there's 100-something drawings at this point.
I'll look her up.
It's Rita, and I want to say her last name is Oak. But if you type in Rita and drawing Jimmy Garoppolo until he gets traded, I'm sure it will come up.
I mean, I've never seen nothing like this. You know,
it's wild.
It has been dragged out as long as it had. We've been dragging Jimmy out for 2 years.
Yeah. Yes, we have. People were convinced he was going to get traded last offseason after the move to get Trey, and sure enough, here we are a full year later.
I've just never seen a team that seems like they are just so unwilling to let Jimmy go.
I agree.
At some point, you just got to cut it.
At some point, you do. I understand why they're not right now, but at some point, you absolutely have to.
But even with Goff, you don't think the Rams had a lot invested in Goff? They took Goff, number 1 overall?
Yeah.
You don't think they had a lot invested in him?
A lot.
And so for them to cut him, they had to say, look, he took them to a Super Bowl, but they had to say, look, we are not going any further. The one position on this team that is just not getting better is the quarterback position.
Yep.
And you
do it. I mean, I think we all know that it's Trey Lance season, but you do have to clear the air by getting Jimmy off of the roster.
You just got to eat that crow.
I agree. Follow the ego on this one.
And the thing is, people would not be upset.
Right. No, it would be relief for everybody. I swear.
Like, finally, maybe now, because with the cap, they got to do something. They got to do something.
Yeah, they need cap relief. There's no doubt about that.
They got to do something. They got to let Jimmy go. I could not imagine them keeping Jimmy on this roster and just rolling with the cap and what we have right now into the season, not being able to make any moves.
Yeah, it's untenable. Absolutely.
A quarterback you're trying to get rid of. I've never seen this to where you let a team suffer for a quarterback you're trying to get rid of. Like, at some point, yes, you love that old car, but at some point you got to be like, hey, I can't keep putting, repairs, putting money into this.
At some point, it's time to retire the old and busted.
Hey, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not calling Jimmy old and busted, but we're talking about the car here. We're talking about the car. But at some time, you got to retire it.
We did him good. He
did us good. We did him well. It's time to just have an amicable breakup at that point.
Like I said, Jimmy could retire today or tomorrow and never have to worry about money in
set for life. Set for life. This has been a phenomenal call. I got to get down to Sean 951 before I hit out of this thing in a little bit, but we shall continue this dialogue at a future date, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Always a pleasure, William. Cheers to you on the way out, my friend. Boom. I'll see you again soon, sir. All right. Bullpup 33. Hey, man, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. My apologies. Bro Montana coming in here. Keep up the great work, Schuh. Bro Montana, I threw this up on the screen earlier. Sorry I didn't get to it in between calls, but wanted to make sure that I called it out specifically and said hello to you. And we got another super chat coming in. This one from Ken Martin. I don't think O'Neal, talking about the undrafted free agent Leon O'Neal Jr., I don't think O'Neal can beat the linebacker Segun Alubi. I apologize for that pronunciation. And cornerback safety Taylor Hawkins. I believe O'Neal has a good chance to make the roster as a special teams contributor. What I saw of him at the combine, this NFL Combine, where my NFL Combine sweatshirt here, was a fiery individual, someone who had the tenacity to play down in the box as a safety and play on special teams. Then what I saw in the drills was not someone who was fluid in his motion, who had a bunch of speed. And it just so happened that in the drills, he was running right next to Jalen Petrie. So the difference could not have been more stark between the two. One very fluid, very fast, the other one with tight hips. And it just made him look even worse. So I do agree he can contribute. I think it's on special teams. Jerome M coming in with the super chat, sneakerhead here on the channel. Jimmy even liked one of her drawings. Rita is killing it. Rita is getting likes from like George Kittle has said it. I mean, phenomenal stuff from Rita, the artist who is drawing Jimmy Garoppolo every day until he gets traded. And Bryant Culp coming in. Great call from William Bennett. I agree. Daniel Garcia doing the good work. Hit that like button. If you're here, hit the like button because we are closing out here. If you're thinking about calling in, don't, because we've got our last caller already has arrived and we are bringing him into the channel right now. You know him. You love him. Sean 951 Niners. Sean, how you doing, man? Good to see you, buddy.
Good, Rob. Good to see you too. I got a new laptop. Does everything sound good?
Oh, yeah, it sounds good. Pictures looking crisp. Still the same great angle, giving us that background view of Niner paraphernalia in the background, which is always appreciated, as I do here behind me.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. How much time do we have?
We got a few minutes, my brother. We will keep going so long as we like.
Got it. Yeah, so I'm going to go off of Bennett and their calls just because I haven't seen the whole show. But
yeah, please.
The whole Jimmy thing, it doesn't matter what anybody says at this point, period. Like there's not even like reason to talk about it because no matter what, he's not going to be going anywhere until he gets his clearance in June after he throws the ball and doctors clear him. So
right. Doesn't seem like anything's happening until then.
Well, you can't, or you're going to pay him $7 million on the injury clause.
Yeah,
so,
if you cut him before then, right.
Yeah, so like no matter how many more weeks we want to talk about him, like it's just for fun because it's not going to happen, period. 0%, he just can't. So the most important key in all this is going to be May and June for Trey. Because right now the 49ers have about $100,000 in the salary cap, and they've got $7.5 million to sign their draft picks.
Right.
Not counting the undrafted free agent guys that get peanuts. But there's
right, because they're all below. There's like that cutoff line. Anyone who makes less than $895,000, you sign them basically for free because they don't count against the cap. It's only the top 51 salaries that count against the cap. And right now that cuts off for the Niners at about $900K. So all those undrafted free agents, forget about them.
Exactly right. So there's about $7.5 million that will hit our cap. So just pretend right now we're $7.5 million over the cap.
Right. So
the NFL knows, regardless, point blank, period, that how the Niners going to get under. Well, it's Jimmy Garoppolo either way.
Right.
So let's just put it this. Let's say after June, right? Let's say 49ers staff see Trey throw. And let's pretend the report of them being underwhelmed, right? So let's just say that's reality last year. So who knows if it is, but let's just say it is. So if they were underwhelmed and they haven't done anything with him other than see practice videos and tapes that they probably get sent on a weekly basis until he gets into OTAs in May and starts to run through play after play after play after play as the starting QB, and not only the coaches, GM, and York take a look, but the players, because you have a core team that Jimmy won't be there because of his arm. He's going to be rehabbing. He'll be away from the team.
Right.
You're going to have our same core watching Trey in that role only because the rest of the quarterbacks are not relevant. Sudfeld's not relevant. Purdy's not relevant. So they're now going to be the ones paying attention to him in May and going into June. So I'm guarantee you the coaching staff is going to be paying attention with their own eyes, also looking at the team, also getting the temperature of the team, and making sure 100,000% that everybody's on board that, hey, I've got a decision to make in about 2 weeks after June happens when Jimmy most likely gets cleared to go cut, peace out, take that salary cap and fill some more needs on our team, or they've got a tough decision to make, a reality check to say, hey, I know the consensus is moving forward with Trey, but the way that they're set up right now, they only have $7.5 million they have to shave to hold on to Jimmy's contract for this year. Now, not that we want to hear that. I'm not advocating for that, but
it's a possibility.
And here's the easy, just free throwing stuff out there, right? So this is not me in the chat saying, hey guys, I want Jimmy back. But This is why they have not taken the other 18 million and spent it, because they could have gone and spent money on a safety. You could bring Tart back right now and pay him. You could go pay a bunch of guys and bring him in, bring our salary cap down to peanuts, and everybody knows Jimmy's gone. So does Jimmy, and he's cut. But by doing it the way they're doing it now, with knowing that it's only 7.5 they have to shave if they do keep Jimmy, Jimmy still goes, well, I'm still a 49er until I get cleared. And if Trey sucks, for lack of a better term, I still have a shot, because if it's not the Niners, he ain't playing next year. He's not playing. Carolina ain't playing with them.
Barring an injury, it would seem like it's a pretty slim chance that he starts.
Right. So he knows that just as well as the 49ers, just as well as his agent, right?
Yeah.
So if Trey
you could argue it was his knowledge of that sort of tried to force the 49ers' hands into releasing him by some of the statements that he's made.
Sure. And they probably said, you're going to Washington. And he said, great, I have a shoulder that needs surgery.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Fine. Go call Wentz.
That's okay. I've got surgery scheduled in about 4 hours. Go ahead, make that trade try to happen.
Exactly, right? So I know that's passed, but so the thing is, like, you look at it in that structure, right? And it's like, well, interesting, because if the Niners know they're going to cut him and Jimmy knows they're going to cut him, they're going to use the cap space they need to sign other guys. But they didn't. They let the draft go through. They have 7.5 they're going to spend. And at worst, I know nobody wants to hear this, but at worst, Trey is not, he's incredibly underwhelming. He's terrible, whatever. And they decide to look, they take the temperature of the team, and it's like, hey, if we drop Jimmy off right now at the curb, and this is what they just saw to Trey for 2 months OTAs, are we sure that's the best interest of this football team for 2022? No, It's not what I hope. It's not what I hope. But
yeah, let me clarify here for anyone who misheard that. Sean is not saying he believes Trey will be that way. He is saying if that were the case, right? And so we're talking a hypothetical. I agree. At this point, since there's no reason to release Jimmy Garoppolo right now, you're waiting until he's healthy enough to do so. You also do want to confirm that you feel Trey Lance is that guy. That's no knock against him. That's with any quarterback. You would want to confirm that the organization is going to be in good hands going forward. And if not, I do think you would have to explore the idea of trying to get Jimmy back on a reduced salary. And to your point of where else is Jimmy going to play, what leverage does he have to turn down a reduced salary? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be his best option, to be back with the San Francisco 49ers for one more year at a reduced salary that still has him making more than he would as a backup somewhere else potentially, and still in a system where he can have success, still in a situation where he may get an opportunity to start for a playoff caliber team and earn himself a starting job somewhere else next year?
I agree with you, but I do not think the reduced salary will actually happen, though. And here's the reason why.
You think maybe they keep him at the 25 mil?
No, but watch, though. So let me give you the scenario.
I want to hear it.
For everyone in the chat, by the way, I'm a business major. That's all I do in my personal life. Like, I just think business here, not 49er fan. Like, trust me.
Yeah.
I want number 6 as bad as anybody else.
Right.
But looking at it from the way that they're playing this, it's a blessing that he got the surgery for this reason only. It forces him to not compete with Trey at all during the OTAs. He's gone. He's gone. It's clean slate. Trey, dude, you can't, no excuse. You do your 15 practices.
Exactly.
Go ball out.
It's as if Jimmy isn't even here for that period.
He's invisible. He's somebody who's hurt.
Yep.
But here's why I say the salary. Jimmy has friends on the team.
Yes, he does.
I'm talking like homies. Like
best friends.
All they have to do is report to Jimmy. Hey, guys, just FYI, Jim, Trey blows ass right now. He's had a terrible camp.
So this is, again, back to a hypothetical where Trey's struggling.
Yeah, and they're going so that if the Niners go back to Jimmy and say, hey, Jimmy, you're cleared, everything's good, bam, Jimmy throws in practice, whatever, everything's looking fine and cozy. Well, now it leverages at Jimmy, because if Jimmy feels the 49ers want him back more than just as a second string, more to compete for the starting job, then Jimmy's like, oh, well, shit, you want me? Well, like, I ain't taking $1 less. Why would I do that? I could be the starter for 13 mil. Trey makes 7. So no, I'll stay right there. Now the Niners are in a dilemma. If he knows that they know that he's got a bad camp, this can get weird. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's why they're not filling Jimmy's money up yet. If they would have filled up Jimmy's money on the cap, let's say not 18, let's say even they filled up 10, they know without a shadow of a doubt there's 0% possibility that he would be on the team because there's no way he's going to make less than Trey going into this season.
Right.
So they leave that optimism there from the agent's perspective, his perspective, and the team, to where at worst case scenario, if he hardballs them and they need him, or Trey gets hurt. What if Trey does an ACL, right? Who knows? I don't want that, but let's just say it happens. Now all they have to do is release Samson Ebukam, because he has a $7.5 million dead hit if they release him.
Right.
So now all of a sudden money works. All your guys come in from the draft. Now you just have to play games during the season if you need to bring in somebody extra. But that's why they're not filling that money. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
Well, the other piece of why they can't technically fill that money, because now the hard deadline is passed, right? Now the cap is in full effect. We have a hard cap in place. So unless the Niners cut Jimmy, they can't actually sign anyone else because they are up against it at this point. But I definitely think that you're onto something with the 49ers and their logic now as to why, even once they have a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, they may wait up until a hard deadline before releasing him, because why not, right? It doesn't appear as if they're attempting to go out and fill a bunch of free agents that are still out there, fill a bunch of holes on the roster. It doesn't seem like there are that many holes on the roster. And there are other ways to free up the money needed to sign the rookie class. You just mentioned one of them, Samson Ebukam. You could get a trade going there. You could cut Samson Ebukam. You have a wealth of players at that edge spot. And you have Jimmy Ward. And I do not think it would be the end of the world to extend Jimmy Ward, keep him with the San Francisco 49ers, keep that veteran presence in the secondary, and you could, again, free up enough money to get the rookie class signed and do it that way.
I'll give my hottest take of free agents currently available that I think is going to be a 49er.
Let's hear it. I like it.
And he's on defense. What do you think?
Ooh, a defensive player that's still available. I mean, if it weren't for the most recent press clippings, I might go out of the box and say something weird like Earl Thomas, just for the hell of it. But as far as players still out there,
same position,
safety position, but one of those still available. I don't know, because quite honestly, the one that I had my eye on, obviously, Tyrann Mathieu, has been signed by the Saints now. So who was still out there? And the other guy I wanted went back to the Steelers, old first-round player. Edmonds,
so based on their actions, now this is all based on their actions, okay? So based on how they did the free agency and how they did the draft. I'm telling you, watch. Jaquiski Tartt.
Ooh.
Okay? That he's not getting what he wants, he's not going to get, period, point blank. So the 49ers don't need him in OTAs. He's a safety. He knows his position. His best friend's right next to him.
He knows the system like nobody else.
And they didn't fill that need at all in terms of somebody whose Ward is going to look to his side and go, yeah, I trust this guy.
Right.
So my sneaky thing is the 49ers have already told Tartt, like you said, you can't sign him yet. Tartt, I'm going to give you X. Do you agree? Bam, boom. If someone gives you more, good for you, but they're not.
Right.
So you run with this. You just need to wait until we get to July, because I need to figure out the rest of the team, the rest of my cap. And then, bam, you're in. If someone else takes you, man, move on, big dog. Like, you go ahead and do it. That's my hot take for that position.
I would not be shocked by that. Real Deal Sports Talk coming in. Tartt will be back for sure. I do think the longer it goes with nobody signing Tartt, the more tempting it becomes to bring him in here. I just noticed that I look more like a witness protection person now that it's dark in here because of that light in the background. I gotta get a second setting for my lights to kick on the brightness extra here. But yes, Daniel Garcia as well. Been saying this. The longer it goes with Tartt still out there, not getting signed by another team, I think the chances of him returning increase. Now, I said at the beginning of the offseason, I heard some rumors that Tartt was looking elsewhere. But for him as well, when he starts to see diminishing opportunities for himself out there, he has got to reconsider a spot that will give him a job. It may not be the job that he wants, but it is a freaking job, and everybody kind of wants one of those. Let me bring in Chris Royals, super chat here, one of our sneakerheads on the channel. Great show, Rob. Been a long day, super tired. I'll call in on the next one. Have a good night, sir. We will have the regular sneakerhead call-in show on Thursdays, Chris. Hope to see you there, my friend. All right, please continue, Sean.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, really, that's my the business side of it. That's my take on what the Niners are currently doing with the Garoppolo saga. You know, now that he's got the shoulder surgery, it's a blessing because, like I said, you now have Trey free, unobstructed, and the team to be with him, to see him every stinking throw where there's no fear of Sudfeld or a Purdy at all. Let him do his month and a half, his 2 months. Let's see what Shanahan has planned for him to put him through the rigor to make sure that he passes his eye test, his feel, see if he did progress. Because you know Shanahan right now too, like a lot. I mean, I look at way deeper than just, 49ers got on the field. Shanahan has an ego. We all talk about it. We know he has an ego. Who just won the Super Bowl? Oh, his understudy? Interesting. And he took him out in the NFC Championship where Shanahan, what? Oh, he blew another 10-point lead infamously. So that eats at him. So there's no way that he's going to sit back and go, you know what? Trey don't look good, but I'm still going to run with him week 1 when we play the AFC West this year. And we have a pretty daunting schedule when you look at some of those teams and how they've gotten better. In reality, our division actually is a little easier than some of the divisions we're playing in the AFC on our schedule. So I'm just curious to see how that plays out. Hey, I hope Trey becomes a Hall of Famer. I hope he balls out like Mahomes did. I promise, I do. I just still look at everything from the worst case scenario. So you have a ceiling and a floor, right? And for me, I just want to make sure that whatever our floor is going into the season is palpable to at least put up 11 wins, because I think that's what it's going to be needed for us
to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we have to do it again. I think, technically we did 10, but I think 11 or more. I think if Trey runs better than he did in those 2 games in terms of his field speed, I don't know, indecisiveness, whatever it was.
Oh, I agree. It didn't look right.
No, right? So if he can get comfortable, become a threat on those third and mediums like Russell Wilson was early in his years with the Legion of Boom. The reason I bring them up is because we have our version of a great defense that keeps him on the field more than not.
We really do.
You would just think, well, shoot, if he can just keep the chains moving, well, then he will minimum be Jimmy G, because that was Jimmy G's big thing. Third down, chains move. Third down, chains move. He just lacked explosiveness and anything impressive, right?
Yeah.
He gave the ball to our playmakers. Well, if we have Debo back, assuming he is, and I think all signs lead to he is. So if he's back and everyone else comes, and obviously health permitted, Lance should be in a position where Shanahan should be drawing up plays for every one of our playmakers, every single game, getting the ball in their hand within seconds. It should not be one where you're sitting back like a duck trying to hit guys 40 yards down the field. I think he's going to let Trey get into that incredible, comfortable rhythm of game speed and then allow him to flourish and take off. But a lot of short intermediate passes, a lot of dump offs to just get him in the feel of what it's like to, win against a quality team. He's only seen 1 victory, and it literally was 30 minutes of quality football from both sides of our team. So, he needs to get that feeling back. And I think if he can do that, the rest of our guys will buy in, and you'll start to see the same type of run we saw in the second half of last year.
I really hope that Shanahan takes that approach. I would say that I have had the criticism of him in the past that I felt similarly of Jimmy. Now, I had, there weren't the same excuses built in of like, oh, well, to Trey's point, you want to get him comfortable because he is young. That's not an excuse. That's a fact. With Jimmy, he was a veteran player, but you still needed to get him comfortable because he just seemed to be out of sorts in some of these games. And I always felt that Shanahan was unwilling or unable to do that. He never seemed convicted in, let's get Jimmy some Jimmy gimmies, right? Get him some early wins to get that confidence up. It never seemed to go that way. And I would hope the focus will be there for a young quarterback, because you definitely have to get that confidence up for a quarterback coming into his 3rd start, his 2nd year in the NFL.
Well, I also think you don't have a choice, because you also have to play the defensive coordinator role from the other side. If I'm those type of defensive coordinators, especially some of the guys, so Chiefs, Chargers, Rams, etc., these guys are going to be making Trey have to make decisions quickly. They're going to start coming up and bringing linebackers in and guys off the edge to make him make mistakes.
Right.
And hopefully Shanahan can draw up some plays to take that up, maybe some screens, or just to use it to their advantage to be able to get those guys off of him. Because I think the more he can be able to see the field, get his reads down like any natural progression in a quarterback, will only suit him well in the future, in his future years. But this year, we just need him to keep us, don't lose the game. Just don't lose the game. Go put us in a position to put up at least 21 points a game, and our defense will do the rest. And I hope our special teams has progressed a little bit with McLeod and others.
Right.
Just so they don't put us in positions where Trey's going 97 yards a drive.
Oh, please tell me that our coverage and kickoff and coverage units have gotten better, because we added significant depth to those units. So I have to believe that we will get a leg up there. The defense looks, on paper, granted, on paper, looks ferocious. I mean, elite level defense. If we can get the return to health of my man, I got to put the cleats in there, Jason Verrett. Oh my goodness, that would be a huge steal if we get a 1 year prove it type of a situation for a healthy Jason Verrett across some Charvarius Ward with Emmanuel Mosley and Ambry Thomas backing it up, and the depth that we now have after the draft. Like, again, it's on paper, so we got to see if all of this materializes into something in reality. But it sets up for Trey to be supported. He may not have gotten the addition of some splashy free agents around him at skill positions that maybe some fans would have wanted, but we did bolster the team around him by bolstering special teams and by bolstering that defense. The big question mark will be, what does his progression look like, and what does that freaking offensive line look like? Because it could be a whole lot different, but I do believe we have the depth there necessary to fill it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the O-line, though, I think Shanahan's probably thinking, I'm going to need to be really good at the run again, right? Like, because that's his MO every year.
Yeah.
But I think from an O-line perspective, and again, I could be off on this, but I think the smartest way he may approach it is, other than Trent Williams, and I do believe Mack will be playing. I really do think he's coming back. I
do too. At this point, it's too late.
I agree. So the key for me, I think, on the O-line is even if it's Jalen Moore or if it's McKivitz or the rest of these guys,
right,
or even Burford or
Burford.
I think their focus is going to be, you guys better freaking run. I want you to run block for like 17 straight OTA days.
Yeah.
Ball out at run blocking. We'll put you in positions offensively where we've got multiple guys to help you. We've got Juszczyk. He's a pro back there. You've got Kittle. You've got Dwelly. You've got multiple genius schemes that Shanahan can pick up that'll help Trey if need be. But if we can run the ball with now a running quarterback per se versus Jimmy, I really think that's going to put us in a much better position to have better pass blocking by default. Not necessarily the skilled individuals, but by the scheme. They won't know when a pass play is coming. Obviously, 3rd and long they will, but it is what it is, the NFL. But I'm saying in terms of the philosophy with Trey, if we can be run first with Mitchell, even if our new guy comes in and balls out just by committee like always, it'll put defenses in positions to have to play on their heels versus aggressive up front. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, sorry, I'm just totally fascinated by this phenomenon of the light in the background dimming my lights in the foreground. I was looking at George just come in. He's like, man, just got in, haven't been in a while. I was like, he's probably thinking, what happened to Rob's lighting? It used to be so good, but at the moment, not quite. Johnny Robinson coming in to say Verrett is slow now. Norman 2.0. Don't be slandering my man. I've got the fire cleats right here. He's going to be picking it up. We haven't seen him yet. It's too early to say.
What I will say about this, where the Verrett thing is, Johnny could be right in this sense, and this is the reason, just to go back in history.
Yeah.
Remember when Verrett came off his last one?
Right.
He was terrible.
When he had to come in relief in that Pittsburgh game where we had those 5 turnovers, he got torched.
Yeah, but I just mean in the sense of coming back from the knee, right?
Yeah.
Mentally, he's there. It's just getting that confidence back of having to zig left, zig back pedal. So
get the body right.
So he's either going to come in with a mindset of, well, this is my last hurrah. So whatever, whether the knee goes out or not, so what, I'm done, and just go crazy. Or he's going to be tentative like he was the year after, and he may not see the field. He may just be a backup piece just in case.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Real Deal Sports Talk is liking what you're spitting. Great take, Sean. Well said. Jerome M. with the super chat. Trey has an elite mind with the athleticism to back it up. He has that overdrive to get better. I have every confidence he will be special. Jerome, I'm with you on that. I agree that it is his mind that gives me a great deal of peace in combination with the athleticism that I have seen on tape and the stories that I hear about his drive, his desire to be the best. It was either a Matt Barrows or Matt Mayoko piece that went back and looked at Trey's childhood, and his father, an ex-NFL player by his own right, told Trey, hey, I'll get up and work with you every single morning. But the deal is I'm never coming to wake you up. You've got to come in at 4:30, whatever it is, wake me up, and then I'll get up and go with you. Trey did that. And so he has all of the intangibles that you want, but you do have to see him put it all together for sure. You have to see him put it all together.
Yeah. The thing, like, I don't use the word confidence with Trey because when I use the word confidence with anybody, I have a reason to be confident.
Right.
But I don't have a reason with him to write him off or anything like that. But since I don't get to see OTAs, I don't get to be privy to that. If Shanahan rolls with Trey, then I'm going to have the confidence that Trey's going to roll week one, go on preseason week one, and let's do this. This is our quarterback. Trey, we trust. It is what a Trey area, whatever. Let's go. But from right now to the next 2 months, is going to tell me everything I need to know about where the vision of our coaching staff is and the rest of these guys. Because remember, too, we brought in Anthony Lynn for a reason. That dude is an outstanding running back coach. Even though he was a head coach for the Chargers, he should be doing wonders with some of our running backs, even though we've lost freaking
Bobby Turner.
Yeah, well, Turner for 1 year, though. He did say he should be back next year.
And Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, McDaniel and the rest of the run game coordinating and all that. I still think either way, the running game is still going to be strong. It's still going to be elusive. It's still going to have the same concepts, included in there. And I still think Turner is still going to be via satellite when it comes to ideas, thoughts, and game plan. Right?
He's he's just not really there.
Yeah, well, because he's still technically on payroll. He's just on leave of absence.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So with Trey, the next 2 months for me, again, important, crucial to tell us everything. If they're underwhelmed again, oh, shoot. Thanks, Ellis. Appreciate it.
Ellis is on that train.
But let's keep it real for Shanahan. Bennett said this about people's jobs on the line.
Yeah.
Well, that's not just players. At the end of the day, Shanahan, I know he's got his extension. We all know what everyone thinks about Lynch in our faithful fan base. Those guys need to win. McVay just won. McVay just won down the street.
They do. They got to save some face.
They need to make the right decision on this quarterback ASAP, because the difference between, he mentioned what the Rams did about, didn't matter. They got rid of Goff and this and that. That's fine, but they could absorb the dead money. We can't. And they also went and got a quarterback who's basically a Hall of Famer by statistics, not a rookie with 3 draft picks. So total, I can't even compare the two, but they have to get it right, because the worst case scenario is, fine, you put in Trey, we go freaking 6 and whatever, 11. This fan base is going to go freaking berserk. We have top level
they
talent.
will lose their shit, Sean.
Because we can't forget, we have a guy at every level who's in their prime getting paid top money. We can't forget that. So there's no point having top money guys. Look at the Rams, top money guys at every level.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have top money guys if you're not trying to win a Super Bowl every single season.
Correct. Because then you breed discontent, right? If you're a top paid guy, you want to be competing for Super Bowls. That's
why I brought up earlier about the people that are tight with Jimmy. If Trey underwhelms these next 2 months, all they're going to do is just, freaking just FYI, dude, he freaking sucks. Keep your helmet on. Get ready. Get that shoulder. Not what I want. But it's fact. It's
not
fact.
What you're predicting, not what you want. No. You're saying in a hypothetical. And to your point of looking at it from a business perspective, if that's what you're attempting to do, if you're a businessman and you're attempting to look at it from a business perspective, you have to make plans for the contingencies. That's the whole point of it, right? You've got to say, all right, if this, then that. If this, then that. Because you can't have one course of action, because this is the NFL. Things are going off the rails at some point. You never know who's going to get injured. You never know which team is going to go from worst to first within your own division and all of a sudden be a contender that you have to take on twice in a year. So I agree. If you are on the business side of the San Francisco 49ers, you have to have a contingency plan in place, and it has to center around the fact that, you certainly do have Jimmy on the roster right now.
Because here's what's mind blowing. Like, let's go to Mr. Irrelevant pick.
Okay. Brock Purdy.
Okay, and not because of him. I don't even care about whatever he brings to the table. I'm assuming he's just another guy. So if you're the brass of the 49ers and you have Trey Lance, and you believe in him as of today or as of 2 weeks ago at the draft, you really do believe he's ready. You really do believe he's going to be your quarterback week 1. Why are the 2 quarterbacks behind him Jimmy Garoppolo? No, I don't mean literally him. The 2, like Sudfeld is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, why did you pick 2 players that resemble Jimmy Garoppolo as opposed to Trey Lance from a physical standpoint?
Well, because if your game plan is going to change for Trey Lance, and Trey Lance has an ACL in week 1, and Sudfeld comes in, assuming Jimmy's gone, and Sudfeld has to come in, or Purdy, whoever wins the job, doesn't matter.
Right.
What are we doing? Now it's the reverse of before, where you said you have 2 different systems for the type of style quarterback. So that tells me one of 2 things. They really do not believe that Trey Lance is ready, and Jimmy Garoppolo still is a viable option to come back, because then it would make sense that you have the same guys.
Yeah.
Or they believe that much in Trey, and they know they cannot invest anything in that guy behind him because there's nobody viable to bring in. Like we said, Tyrod Taylor and the rest of them, but we obviously didn't want to spend $10 million. We spent $2 million. So that tells you either they know they don't have any money for that position, it's Trey or bust.
Yeah.
Or they don't know as much as they want. That's why they're not very vocal about Trey, right? Like they don't come out and say much about Trey, except for when you had to say something at the meetings in Orlando, because you have to. You're the coach and you're fine.
Have to.
Yes. So what are you going to do? Yeah, we think he's ready. We believe so. While Shanahan's hungover sitting on the porch.
He was so hungover. That was the most apparent hungover I have ever seen.
You're right. So it's like, yeah, we believe he's ready. Absolutely.
I'm surprised that there wasn't a in the middle of that interview, man. He was clearly feeling it.
So those little indications make you sit back and go, man, like this is like Andy Reid and his situation with Mahomes was clear.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready last year. He's our quarterback starting this year. Alex,
right?
We love you, man. Take to Washington, go and win 10 games and lose your first round. Right. So he was definitive. With us, they would do that if they could, but they can't. They tried to at the end of the year say we're moving Jimmy. No matter what happened during the fiasco with it, it was what it was. They assumed they were going to get some second round picks or whatever it was at that time to help them this year, and they didn't get it.
Right.
So great. So who cares? That's the past. So here's what we have. 2 things left. We have 2 months of Trey. What do they think of him? Then the Jimmy's going to be cleared. You either cut him for $0, actually $1.4 million in dead money. He's gone. So basically $0. Or you're going to tell the fan base and the rest of that team that we know what they believe of Jimmy on that field over that month over Trey. And the media is going to go effing nuts.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you have 3 first-round picks sitting in the backup role, making $7.5 million this year, playing 3 official games and now going on 4 years.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's crazy, man. Crazy.
It is very crazy. All right. Well, I tried to turn up my lights in here, but this freaking lighting in here is killing me. I got to have an alternate when I go this late, because it is only going to get worse with the sun hitting that angle in the summertime in Portland. So I've got to get myself some sort of a backdrop or something to kill that sun. But Sean, this has been a phenomenal call, as evidenced by all the people in the chat that are loving what you're spitting out at this time. I truly appreciate you taking the time to call in. We have made this a 2-hour program. It was a fun one, my guy. Are you going to be available on Thursday potentially to make it for the sneakerhead? Yeah.
5 o'clock?
Yes, sir. Right? 5 o'clock Thursday. You know it.
Next week I'm in Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire.
Traveling, man.
That's
in Massachusetts. That's where I hail from.
That's in a 5-day stretch. Oof.
That highlights how much closer together all those states are on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, so I'll go to Columbus Monday, to Cincinnati, over to Philadelphia, to New Jersey, to New York, to Connecticut, to New Hampshire, to Massachusetts, go to the Red Sox game at Fenway next Friday night against the Mariners.
Goodness gracious.
And then fly out Saturday. Yeah, that's how it works for me, though. That's why it's hard when I was traveling those weeks. I'm like, dude, Rob, I can't get on at 5, man. I don't even know where my brain is at 5.
Right? I hear you.
Appreciate
it.
But
you will be on this time around. Yeah. Sorry, I'm messing with my lights. Tried to get that one to blow up, but couldn't. But we will see you on Thursday, my friend. I appreciate you being on.
Appreciate you too. I don't have the mug here, but I've got the one my wife made.
Hey, cheers, man.
Got it, bud.
All right, you take care, Sean.
See you later, faithful.
All right. That is the end of the show. This has been phenomenal. If you saw it at the end and wondered why I looked like I was in a witness protection program, it's because of the glare coming in from that window over there. But I will change the lighting settings. I will get a sheet hung up over that big old window that light is streaming in from. It's on the northwest side of the house, so it is crazy that the sun even makes it around there, but so be it. We will deal with it. I appreciate all of you being here. Every call was phenomenal tonight. The chat was on point. Thank you so much for being here. I will be back on with Randon McMahon tomorrow tomorrow is Tuesday. Sorry, I'm getting all confused. That's Wednesday between two beards at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, I'll be on with the mailbag episode. So look for the tweet that goes out in the morning if you want to submit your mailbag questions or send them in to 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. I'll be doing the live mailbag here on the channel tomorrow at 5 p.m. Until then, cheers, faithful.